This is Jake. He's a photographer, and in today's video, he's gonna be flying around the world taking pictures of mythical creatures, and it gets crazy, so make sure to stick around to the end of the video. This story starts with Jake going in for a meeting with his evil boss. His boss tells him that he needs to take pictures of 3 different mythical creatures or else he's gonna get fired. Jake argues back and says they're called mythical creatures for a reason because they come from myth. They don't actually exist. But his boss doesn't listen and tells Jake he needs the photos on his desk in 2 weeks, so Jake better hurry. So Jake heads off on his adventure. He gets his camera and his backpack and he's ready to go. He hops on his plane and it takes off. His first stop, the Pacific Northwest, home of the Sasquatch, or most famously known as Bigfoot. There's been many sightings of Bigfoot, but most notably is 1967's the Patterson-Gimlin footage, where 2 ranchers came across a giant ape-like creature. There have also been many footprints discovered. To this day, no one knows if the Sasquatch is real or not. So I got to work building the forest of the Pacific Northwest. I used multiple different trees and different branches to represent the forest. Jake begins his hike through the forest, not sure what to expect, but he has this uneasy feeling about him, like he's being watched. He continues his hike though, taking pictures of all the beautiful scenery. But then he comes across what looks like footprints. These footprints definitely don't belong to any human. I wonder where they go. But it's getting late and Jake doesn't want to be tracking them in the dark, so he snaps a photo and starts setting up his sleeping bag. He gets ready to go to bed, but he still has that uneasy feeling. Later that night, when Jake's sleeping, something creeps out from the woods. Jake wakes up and sees a giant ape-like creature. It's Bigfoot! He grabs his camera and snaps a photo. But in the morning, when he looked back at the picture, it was all fuzzy and blurry and you couldn't see anything. So he decided to follow the footsteps. While following the footsteps, a snake slithered up from behind the tree and bit him on the leg. He fell to the ground, screaming in pain. And then he passes out from the snake venom. But wait, what's that? Is that Bigfoot? Bigfoot emerges from the woods and grabs Jake to save him. Then he drags him back to his cave. So I built up a Sasquatch cave. Bigfoot drags him into the cave, then gives him some medicine that will help with the snake venom. Jake wakes up unaware of where he is, but he hears this music playing. He looks around and sees a band playing music in a cave. He starts freaking out, especially after seeing a chipmunk playing the drums. But this guy with a shaggy haircut offers him a pizza. Bigfoot tells Jake that this is his band, the Forest Friends, and that this is his cave full of tons of knickknacks and trinkets. Jake asks Bigfoot if he can take a picture of him, but Bigfoot says only if he stays and plays some music with them. Jake does end up taking a lot of pictures of them hanging out and partying together. And Bigfoot agrees to take a real classic Bigfoot photo. Smile, says Jake. Jake waves goodbye to all the animals, then heads back to his plane. Next stop is Scotland, home of the Loch Ness Monster. There have been many sightings of the Loch Ness Monster, the most famous being the surgeon photo, which actually has been proven to be a hoax. The theory is that the Loch Ness Monster is actually a plesiosaur that got frozen in ice millions and millions of years ago. And it eventually thawed out, leaving the Loch Ness Monster to rule over Lake Loch Ness. I built up this dock so that Jake could hop on this boat and sail off into the middle of the lake. He eventually parks his boat at the deepest spot of the lake, takes out his camera, patiently waiting for something. But then he feels his boat shaking. His boat gets a big bump. There's definitely something under the water. He gets his camera ready to take a photo. But when he's not looking, something emerges from the water. That's definitely not the Loch Ness Monster. That's way scarier. Jake hears water splashing in the background and says, "He's right behind me, isn't he?" And turns around to see this ferocious beast. The monster attacks Jake, launching him off the boat. He falls into the water. Luckily, he's got a life jacket on. The sea serpent starts surrounding him, so he whips out his GoPro. But then, he gets pulled underwater. Jake got pulled deep underwater. Oh no, the sea serpent's back! He attacks Jake, landing multiple blows. Jake's gotta get out of here. But wait, what's that? It's the real Loch Ness Monster. He came to save Jake. He starts fighting the sea serpent, they both start trading blows back and forth. They have a crazy fight, but Nessie ends up taking the sea serpent down and rescuing Jake. Jake, gasping for air, sees Nessie and he freaks out, but actually Nessie's there to help him. Nessie gets Jake back on the boat, and Jake even manages to sneak in a picture before Nessie leaves. Jake heads back to the plane. His next stop is the Himalayan mountains to find the Yeti. The Yeti is another ape-like creature that inhabits the Himalayan mountains in Asia. He is also known as the abominable snowman. There have been stories in pre-Buddhist folklore for ages about the Yeti, and Jake is gonna find him. But first, he's gotta climb Mount Everest. He begins his climb, slowly trekking up this giant mountain. It's freezing cold out, and it starts to snow. This is gonna be a rough climb up this mountain. But Jake continues his journey, and I build him a little trail. Mount Everest is 29,000 feet tall, and considered the tallest place on Earth. So Jake better be careful. Next, I build the area where the Yeti lives. Jake is relieved to finally be on a flat surface. He can finally take a breather. But Jake looks around, and he gets this weird vibe from this place. There's lots of icicles and jagged rocks. This place is pretty sketchy. Jake feels like he shouldn't be here. But wait, what's this? Is that a popsicle stand? On Mount Everest, what? Jake doesn't mind. He grabs himself a popsicle, but he ends up getting his tongue stuck to it. Oh no, I think those popsicles belong to someone else. Jake turns around to see the abominable snowman. Jake starts freaking out and apologizes for stealing the Yeti's popsicles. But the Yeti doesn't say anything and just walks up to Jake. He grabs himself a popsicle and says, "This is my mom's recipe. Do you like it?" Jake says he loves it. The Yeti's so happy to hear that. He never gets any visitors up here and he's super lonely. Jake says he understands. He doesn't have very many friends either, but he does have this one friend named Bigfoot. "You know Bigfoot?" asks the Yeti. Jake says, "Yeah, I just hung out with him. He's one of my friends." The Yeti says that that's his long-lost brother and that he would love to meet him. Jake says, "If I can get you to meet your brother Bigfoot, will you let me take a picture of you?" The Yeti agrees, but there's no way he's getting on that plane looking like that. He's gonna need a disguise. So Jake tells him to wait here. Jake climbs down the mountain and heads back into town to get the Yeti a new suit. Jake is out of breath from climbing up and down the mountain, but now he's got the Yeti a disguise. The Yeti puts on the new suit, and he's even got a new hat, looking pretty snazzy. Now him and Jake can board the plane back to the Pacific Northwest. Jake takes him on the same trail he took back to Bigfoot's cave. They hike along this trail, and the Yeti's super nervous to meet his long-lost brother. Finally, they make it. "Here's the cave," says Jake. "Your brother's in there." Jake and the Yeti enter the cave, and he finally meets his long-lost brother. Bigfoot and the Yeti hug it out and have a beautiful moment together. The Yeti tells Jake that he's ready to take that photo. So they step outside, and Jake takes a legendary photo of Bigfoot and the Yeti. Jake waves goodbye to all of his new friends, but he's gotta hurry home because the deadline's due tomorrow for those photos. Jake heads into work to show his boss all these epic photos that he's taken. But when he shows his boss all the photos, his boss says they're all cheap photoshops. And now Jake's getting fired.